Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the DVC Show. I'm your host, Paul Krieger, and I'm joined this week by my lovely wife, Amy Krieger.
Hello.
John Sakari, a.k.a. Big Fat Panda. Senior Sales Associate for the DVC Resale Market, Mr. Derek DeBoer.
Hey, now.
And we've got the wonderful Jeff Haslam here joining us as well.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you guys for joining us this week. I'm so happy to have you. I don't know where my wife just went to. She decided to leave. So now it's just the four of us. Magic, she's gone. There's now a dog moving around in the background. So who knows what could happen here on the DVC show this week, but we're happy to have you. This week's episode is all about Saratoga Spring. I don't know if I can keep a serious face going as my wife is flipping our dog in the background because
I'm sorry. He's getting huffy and puffy. I had to flip him
he's
over.
huffy and puffy, so he needed to flip over. He literally has a fan that comes along with him as we film these shows. I feel like the realness of these shows is really why many of you come back watching week after week now. So I'm just going to leave all of this wonderful dog content in, and we're just going to keep going. But we are adding another resort to our resort spotlight, which is Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort this week. And we are going to kind of unpack all things Saratoga Springs, from the history of the resort to the point charts, the amazing rooms, all of the amenities, dining, and more. As always, before we get started, this and all of our DVC content on DVC Fan is brought to you by the world of DVC. DVC Resale Market, if you're looking at buying or selling a Disney Vacation Club contract. Monera Financial, where they can help you with that DVC resale contract purchase. And the DVC Rental Store, where you can try before you buy, rent some points, or rent out your own points. Also, special mention, because we had some doozies right before this show, make sure that you head to patreon.com/DVCfan and join our Patreon community, where you can see all of us goof around before and after these shows, because I can promise you we are nice and polished, I guess, because my wife is here still trying to get a dog out the door. We are nice and polished here on camera, but we are even more crazy behind the scenes. Now there's more dogs walking in the background. This is just getting away from us, but we are going to continue.
Did you get the whole 101?
Yeah.
That was bovine.
We're talking about Saratoga. We need a horse just to walk through the background. Would be
I
perfect.
can probably drum one up. That's the next thing that's going to kind of walk by in a second or two. But we are talking all things Saratoga Springs this week. It is one of the last resorts, I think, in our DVC resort spotlight series, and it shouldn't be the last because it is a wonderful resort and so many people overlook it. It is a wonderful property located right next to the Disney Springs area, and there's so many things that people can enjoy just both at the resort but also in the surrounding areas. And we thought there wouldn't be a better place to get started than talking about kind of the history of Saratoga and what brought it about. And no one better than this. I find a way to say this every episode. The senior sales associate that now looks like a ghost, Mr. Derek DeBoer. Tell us a little bit about the history of Saratoga Springs.
Yes, and I do apologize for the crazy lighting in here. I literally think I have 13 lamps, a cell phone. Everything was fine for the first few shows, and then it got dark, and I don't have any things on my window, so we're frantically trying to make it look. So I apologize in advance. But
the podcast listeners will never know.
Yeah, see, exactly.
With your Patreon help, maybe we could buy shades for Derek.
Yes.
Yeah, right, exactly.
He just moved in. So
His neighbors will appreciate that, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course they will. So the cool thing about Saratoga, Paul, is it does have kind of a really kind of cool history. I highly recommend even just going on, looking up the history of Saratoga Springs, Disney, not Saratoga Springs, because it'll send you to the Saratoga Springs in New York. But a lot of people will know that it started off basically as almost like vacation homes is what it was. It was called the Disney Village. Then they realized that this community wasn't quite going to take off. So in 1996, apparently, is when Michael Eisner, who fell in love with this concept of going on vacation and taking classes, right? So being able to, and there's an institute, I can't remember which one it is, so forgive me, but it was one that he attended quite a few times. And he said, I want to take this concept of going on vacation, but actually trying to learn something while you're on vacation. So he came up with the idea of basically in 1996, they took over Saratoga Springs. So they took over the whole entire, Disney Village complex that was right there, where they had 2-bedroom homes, they had 1-bedroom homes, they had little studio homes. It did not look like it does now. So don't think that Disney Institute, for the most part, didn't look anything like that now. It really looked very, very different. So you got to go back and take a look at pictures of those. But what happened was you could then sign up for basically week-long classes or 4 or 5 days where you could take anything from cooking classes, you could take photography classes, you could take, obviously, animation classes. And as cool as it sounded, it lasted from about 1996 to about 2002, I think, is from what I recall. Then they basically had a fire sale, and they started to kind of offer classes that used to be like week-long classes for like, $500. Then they started to say, hey, if you're on vacation, swing by and you can do a class for like $50. So we all know that when things get, deeply, deeply reduced that much, that there's a problem there. So that's where Disney Vacation Club kind of jumped in and said, hey, you know what? We'll make a magical timeshare out of this place. And they sure enough did.
You say as cool as it sounded, and I'm rubbing my head the whole time you're telling that story going, no part of me wants to learn while I'm on vacation. Like, this is the kind of thing that 3 guys in a room came up with, and they didn't ask anyone if it was a good idea. Like, did anyone actually...
I don't listen. If somebody said, we're going to make you a lasagna master, within 5 days, you're going to make a lasagna. I would think that's cool. I just don't think it should be around these wonderful theme parks, because now you have competition.
That's what the problem is. Because again, I was telling you, I did it. So it was back in 1996. We were there for a week. It was kind of like a work retreat. Back when I was on the Disney marketing side, we did a ton of classes. The photography class was amazing. Obviously, the animation class was great. The cooking classes were unbelievable. One of the few buildings that still remains is that performance hall. So it's right there, right next to that main pool right there at Saratoga. The performance hall is terrific. They did great concerts and speeches there and all that stuff. But yeah, it kind of come down to that idea where it sounded a lot cooler and better on paper than for that family of 4 telling their kids, we're going to Disney and y'all are going to class when we're there. So no.
Do they still do anything in that concert hall ever? Like...
DVC does. Yeah. So
really?
We used to do kind of, member events from time to time. I remember doing a member event there when the Polynesian was announced. So we did some member shows there. But overall, I mean, it's greatly unused.
Underused
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. I see that building every time, and it has a beautiful Saratoga Springs logo and everything on the outside of it. It's right there perfectly in the front of the resort. But it's like, is there anything inside? Is this just a shell of a frame of a building? But yeah.
And mainly when it became Disney Vacation Club, it became the DVC headquarters. Because really, I mean, up until that point, Disney Vacation Club had offices, but they were kind of literally spread out in many cases on trailers, kind of behind the scenes over there at the boardwalk or over at an Old Key West or whatnot. So this was their first place that really they said, we're going to make the headquarters. So this is the place where the vans are going to pick people up. We're going to do one-stop shopping. We'll have a place where they could see not just one resort room, but we're going to be able to mix them out and change them out. So we could show you Hawaii one day. And then if you want to see the Grand Floridian, you could do all of that while you're at Saratoga Springs. So it really became their epicenter, which it still is.
And we know that the sales center for DVC is located at Saratoga Springs Resort. So it kind of has always in my head been that home of Disney Vacation Club. And the more you're talking about it, the more you've now sold me on the educational concept, especially if they can get this lasagna class that Panda was talking about.
I would teach it. I would teach this class.
It sounds like a great idea, though. Like if you could inject some of these like small little member events or just kind of small events throughout the year that kind of encourage you to stay at Saratoga, I feel like it would get more people to be there because unfortunately, and I have to say this, Saratoga is the resort of last resort that many people look to when it comes to their points. Owners of the resort have some different opinions of it. They love it, or they own there because they know that they can get some cheaper points at Saratoga. But it's because of this fact. It's because people overlook the resort, and it is beautiful, and it does have a lot of great things to offer.
It does.
Panda, you just said you had a staycation recently at Saratoga and got to experience it.
I mean, if you go onto the DVC site, a lot of times you realize nothing's available, but Saratoga is, and you're like, why? In any event, I don't drink a lot, especially because I'm usually the designated driver. So I thought, why don't we go for a night at Saratoga? And I think they upgraded us too, just, pixie dusted it. And we went to Disney Springs and just had a great, not worrying about drinking thing, walked over back to Saratoga at midnight and watched a movie, went to bed, and woke up the next morning, had breakfast. And then it was great. Went to the boathouse the night before. It was a great little staycation. And I think we do discount it a lot, and we don't use Saratoga because it's always available. But let me tell you, people that discover it are probably going to stick with it. It's a nice resort. A little disjointed.
And it's very important to know that for folks that maybe not be familiar with it, when we say it's usually available, it's not because it's not nice. It's because it's the largest of all the Disney Vacation Club resorts. So believe me, when they did that refurb, which I know we'll talk about, this resort that went from I kind of like it, it became a lot of people's first choice because, like John said, it's got great availability, great point charts with it, and that proximity to Disney Springs, it just can't be beat. So yeah.
And the rooms are no joke.
Yeah.
The rooms are absolutely amazing. At Saratoga Springs, you're going to find deluxe studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. They've got some 3-bedroom grand villas. And then Jeff Haslam was telling us before the show where he has stayed at Saratoga before, the Treehouse Villas, which are a unique 2-bedroom type accommodation that is also available as part of Saratoga Springs. Jeff, give us your thoughts on Saratoga and tell us a little bit about your Treehouse experience.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with what's been said already as far as Saratoga, especially post refurb. It's kind of got its own thing going, and I don't want to call it a hidden gem because everybody knows where it is, but people avoid staying there, and there's not really any reason to, other than if you're a theme park heavy traveler, it's a little bit of a journey to get to the parks. But man, Disney Springs, the golf courses, everything. As far as the tree houses go, I actually really enjoyed them. We had our grandkids with us, and we stayed there for about 5 days. They loved it. They're just kind of a kitschy little unique property. There's nothing else really quite like it. They're kind of rustic, but not. A lot of them are right on the river that goes in between Old Key West, Saratoga Springs, and Disney Springs. But they're just really beautiful. It does feel like a cabin in the woods. They're very secluded, very private.
Yeah, Jeff, don't you feel like you're in a whole different place when you're there?
You absolutely do. You would have no idea you were at Disney World or in Florida for that matter. Like it's pine trees and no grass, and it's just very, very cool. The only downside is do not stay there unless you have a car, because so what most people don't know is Saratoga has their own bus system, right? Stops 3 or 4 times. The tree houses have their own bus system that also stops 3 or 4 times, so that by the time you get from one to the other to transfer to go, it's an hour. Like I did that one day, and I immediately got on Turo and rented a car. That's too much.
It almost seems like one of those resorts that needs golf carts, like the Fort Wilderness
Cabins.
Yes,
yeah.
That would be cool. And I wish they would kind of do a little bit of remodeling to give it even its own quick service would be really nice. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy, but their pool is kind of a joke. You go over to Saratoga proper for the pool, but they could make a cool like little watering hole, fishing hole type pool with a quick service would be nice.
I mean, it has its own little drive-in area. So like if you are headed to the tree houses, you go in a different entrance than the main Saratoga Springs entrance. So, I mean, it only makes sense. And it's also Yeah, it was built at a different time than the rest of the resort. A lot of people have commented on this, and we'll go into kind of the details of the recent refurbishment that came to Saratoga Springs. But just a few years ago, Saratoga Springs got its major room refurbishment, which basically means they go in and they gut mostly everything, and you're going to get all new appliances. You're going to get new flooring, carpet, new design, new theming. All of that stuff comes to the resort. Tree houses didn't get touched yet because they actually were built several years later, and so they are still coming up on the refurbishment schedule. And so it's like they're part of Saratoga, and yet they're like the redheaded stepsister of.
That's another
Yeah.
one
Okay.
they could be announcing at the exciting condo association meeting.
The super exciting condo association meeting where we will all be and we will eat our cookies.
Well, they're kind of a unique layout too, in that there wouldn't really be a spot for a Murphy bed because they're kind of that round. There's windows everywhere. Like, I'm not really sure where they do that. One of the rooms right now has bunk beds.
Yeah.
So it's like a 2-queen bunk bed plus the pull-out sofa. So it would be interesting to see how they do that refurb and how they update it to keep with kind of what all the other resorts are doing.
I just had this weird epiphany. Do you guys remember the Monsanto House of the Future that they would show?
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't it look a little bit like a treehouse? That just came to me now. It's like, a pole and a house up there, like a octagonal carousel of progress type thing.
The Monsanto Treehouse of the Future. There you go.
Yeah.
Everybody's Googling it right now, John.
How do you spell that? Yeah.
MONSANT.
MO.
Anyhow, my thing was with the tree houses, I thought they were going to be buggy because just because of the, in the forest and everything. I was so happy that it was super clean and it felt nice, and I was happy to stay there. So I did like the tree house, and I felt like I was in a different place.
Yeah, they do transport you a little bit outside of the Disney bubble, and that's part of the beauty of Saratoga and also Old Key West, which is that, and it's why people don't think of them. It's out of the Disney bubble a little bit, even though Disney Springs is right there. Most people, when they think of DVC or they think of Disney, they think of being in the heart of the action. I talk to people at DVC rental store about this all the time, where it's like, where do you want to stay? What do you want to? It's like, oh, Magic Kingdom, Epcot, that kind of stuff. And when you talk to the Saratoga owners or the Old Key West owners, it's hard to get them to understand why people don't love these resorts. And that's the mindset of someone that is coming in for a Disney vacation, is that they're looking at their year or every other year Disney trip, and they want to be in the heart of it. They want to be rope drop to close day after day after day. Whereas those of us that are DVC members and have done this for so many years, we understand the value and the beauty of the resorts and how there's just as much to do there as there are at the parks themselves. And so we love these properties a little bit more. And so it just takes some education and shows like this that kind of shed a light on Saratoga and these properties, because they are a great place to stay. And I would say almost better because they give you that escape at the end of the night. They allow you to kind of emerge from the Disney bubble and the chaos of all of that, and just relax and enjoy the surroundings of Saratoga and the amazing resort and the amenities.
The point value is great. You don't feel like you got rooked at all.
Yep.
So
exactly.
I think, Paul, like as you kept saying about Disney bubble, it kind of hit me, and I'm saying that's probably, if I was going to say my least favorite thing about Saratoga, and it also goes for Old Key West too, is that I have a feeling when I go to these other resorts, so when I go to my Polynesian, when I go to the Boardwalk, the thing I don't like is all the cars. I constantly see cars when I'm at Saratoga Springs because they're everywhere. You have to watch, be careful when you cross the street. You've got cars in your parking right outside your room. That takes me out of the Disney bubble. So I think if there's anything negative about it, is that it would be an amazing resort if there were no cars. But it's the fact that you see traffic and you see stop signs and you see cars. When you go to some of these other resorts, you show up and you're like, I don't see anything. My only modes of transportation are maybe a Disney bus if I go to a park, or a boat, or a monorail.
Horse.
I could, or a horse. Yeah. But yeah, that's my only negative.
That's going to be the new Saratoga Springs. Everyone's going to park in the Orange or Limer garage, and then they're going to have horses that you take from there over to Saratoga. And just keep with the theming of the resort.
Yeah. Get ready for your
like
Saratoga.
I think the way the other resorts go to like a park, like you assume, Bay Lake Tower is a Magic Kingdom resort. This kind of feels like a Disney Springs resort. If you're going to be going to the movies a lot, seeing shows, restaurants at Disney Springs, it really is a nice way to not use transportation and just, walk over a little boardwalk type thing, platform.
Yeah. And to Derek's point, I completely understand what you're saying of, you're not just like all the cars at the resort. It can actually be a positive thing too if you are driving, and especially if you're driving and you have kids, you can park right outside your villa and it's easier, to get to your room that way. But if you're taking Disney transportation, I can see why, you might lean more towards something in the Magic Kingdom area, the Epcot area.
From a car perspective, it can be a little bit dicey if you're doing a Surrey bike ride around it. No one knows that better than Jeff Haslam, who decided to. Well, you didn't decide. We decided for you that you were going to drive us around on our recent Surrey bike question and answer episode of the DVC show. So
yeah,
I feel like Jeff, you should have a
guy that will captain your Surrey bike for free. Yeah.
Do you have like a newfound respect for Saratoga Springs after doing that?
I actually do, believe it or not. That was a fun day anyway, but my stays there have always kind of been very centralized. Tree houses, one night or two at a deluxe that, we were close to the main lobby there. So I didn't really get to see all of the resort, and it's beautiful in its own right. It's got some shops.
Yep. And going through just some of the bullet points that we sort of set out for this show, we talked a little bit about the recent refurbishment, but I think it bears revisiting because the Saratoga Springs refurbishment is really what set the tone for most modern Disney Vacation Club properties and most of the more modern Disney Vacation Club refurbishments that we've seen come to multiple resorts. And I say that because it was the first resort where we saw the pull-down Murphy beds replace the couch beds. We also saw them move to a lot more laminate flooring within the buildings and a lot less carpet. And then also the platform bed frames, which I think, a lot of people overlook how that's a huge game changer, but there's so much storage now where you can slide your luggage underneath that bed and it's out of sight, out of mind. And so they kind of came up with that idea. And that kind of mimicked a lot of what they were doing with Riviera at the time as well. But it really has now injected the same vibe into all of these resorts. So I think everyone was kind of shocked at how beautiful Saratoga Springs was. Because if you remember what it looked like before, that's the kicker. The Saratoga Springs before, and if we can find some pictures, which I think I just replaced some recently on the DVC rental store website of the old Saratoga Springs property. We will put some of those pictures up now. But pre-refurb, I can understand why people didn't want to go to,
I don't think I've ever seen it pre-refurb.
Oh my God. Serious flashbacks of sleeping over at my grandparents' house.
Really?
Oh my God.
I'm trying to think if we
did not hate it. And it might be because
she liked her grandparents' house.
No.
Right. I apparently have got some issues.
Saratoga Springs was our first DVC resort that we ever stayed at. So it was our first trip as DVC members. We spent, and I just remember opening up that room, and it was like the first time we saw a balcony, like our first time ever having
the
a
smell of
balcony.
mold and must.
It didn't smell bad. And
Sound of the banjo.
And it had this cute kitchenette, and the kitchenette was like a bluish, greenish color cabinets. And I thought it was cute. I mean, I knew it like needed updated, but I don't know. There was just something about it. And then we spent the next morning on the balcony, and you had coffee, and the view was really
Oh, she's got really good. You got really good, nice memories, Amy. That's just
good. And so Saratoga is like one of my top 5 DVC resorts. And another thing about it is, you look at like Riviera, or you look at, they're building this new Pallet tower, and we're just stacking people on top of each other. And Saratoga is so spread out. And I know people look at that as like a negative, but if you're like us and you like to walk and you don't
like neighbors,
you don't like neighbors, you get used to it, and it's nice to have that separation and that space. And I think that makes it quieter overall as a resort. Especially,
it feels much more like a neighborhood.
Yeah. And I remember thinking when we stayed there for the first time, and it was like, I could live here. Like, this could be my house. I could live in this, this could be my condo. And it just felt like, I don't know, it was just beautiful. And we've got these beautiful fountains, and the architecture is kind of Victorian. I like the stones and if you stay in Congress Park, that is an amazing view of Disney Springs. So there's a lot to love about Saratoga Springs.
And there will never be a Disney Vacation Club resort built like that again. They are definitely looking at the space, and they are building upwards rather than outwards. And so that is also one of the, as Amy said, it can be a plus to some and a negative to others, but there will never be another one like it. So it kind of makes it a little bit more unique and special.
Well, and even, when you go over to the Cell Center and they take you on a tour, that Grand Villa is one of the prettiest, I think, that Disney
I agree.
Just beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep. We had the opportunity to stay in the Grand Villa.
That's our
last
only
year.
one
It's the only Grand Villa we've ever stayed in, but you had to kick me out the next morning. Like we woke up in the morning and worked from the Grand Villa, and we waited for the knock of death at 11 to kick us out, because it was.
It is like I love Grand Villas that have 2-story windows, and that is one of a few. That do. And I agree with you, Jeff. It's beautiful. The colors and everything is so pretty there.
Yep. We spoke to the rooms, the different types of rooms. You've got the deluxe studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. We just talked about the Grand Villas and the Treehouse Villas. Something also unique to Saratoga Springs is that there are 2 view types, or 2 room view types. One is
so they're not actually view, they're location designations.
Location, view, location where you see stuff. Yeah.
Sorry.
I feel like that's the same.
I'm gonna with Amy on
it's like a different word, but it's the same thing.
So standard means like location. So the paddock, carousel, grandstand, those are considered standard because the location is further away from amenities. Whereas preferred, it's not a view designation, it's a location designation, because the Springs is a preferred and you're close to the carriage house, and Congress Park is preferred because it's close to Disney Springs. And you have that look on your face like
I've grasped the concept, Amy. I think
I'm good. I'm just crossing it off my list. We've covered the location type of Saratoga Springs. But yeah, no, I mean, that's another unique feature where if you do want to be closer to the amenities, the preferred is going to give you that ability to be closer to the amenities, be closer to Disney Springs, and then that standard is going to be a little bit far away. And you can be pretty far away.
Yeah, it depends. Like the carousel is pretty far from everything, but a lot of people really like that area because of how quiet it is. We usually, because we are cheap skates with our points, we usually always go for standard over preferred, and we always try to get into the paddock. And if you're in one of those buildings that's closest to Congress Park, you're pretty close, to walk over through Congress Park and get to Disney Springs.
Yep. And then speaking of being cheapskates with our points, the point charts are reasonable. The point charts at the Saratoga Springs point charts you can't beat. They start as low as 9 points per night for a deluxe studio, going all the way up to 28 points, which is still considerably low when you compare it to something like Riviera, which starts at 14 and goes all the way up to 40. So considerable difference. Riviera, yes, a newer resort. They do have some more inflated point charts, but it is a smarter spend of your points if you are just looking to get on property, stay in a room for a night for a special event, for a date night at Saratoga, so that you can go over to Disney Springs or something. Mm-hmm. It's a very affordable use of your points, and that's why everyone on this call is like nodding their heads. They're like, yeah, like if I can do a vacation at Saratoga, like I'm going to do it. Like it's going to be a great time.
I remember there was a time where a 1-bedroom was the same at Saratoga as a studio at another
Yep.
resort.
There
And I was
are,
like,
yeah,
oh,
there are times when they're very similar. You're right. So you could get a larger room for your points as well.
Yep. And a lot of people, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people buy at Saratoga. And Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, like this is the number one, like by far and wide in terms of number of contracts sold. You know, we sell at DVC resale market. The number of contracts at Saratoga is just out of the water.
It's always such a great bang for the points, as we like to say, just in terms of, and I tell people in terms of price, it's got a great price per point. It's got good annual dues. It's got a good long deed that runs till 2054. And like you said, Paul, it's availability, just meaning in terms of how many contracts do I get to pick and choose from? You know, there's some resorts you're going to be, okay, oh my God, there's only 3 of these contracts. But okay, if I'm looking for Saratoga points, oh my God, I might have in that, you know, 100 to 200 point range, I might have 15 to 20 to 30 different contracts to be able to pick and choose from. Because again, Saratoga is such a fantastic resort, just like we talked about, but also for those folks that say, I don't really have a favorite. You know, I really don't care. I'm not a planner. I ain't planning 11 months, 10 months, 9 months, 8 months out. My family and I plan 6 months out, 5 months out. Then by all means, buy Saratoga Springs. You don't want to buy a resort to pay for those 4 extra months to book if A, you don't have a favorite, and B, if you're never going to use that 4 extra month window privilege of time, then just buy points at Saratoga. And if you're going to be happy, man, okay, perfect. I'm going to book Saratoga. It'll be available at 7 months out. Don't worry. Then you go ahead and book it. And then, you know what? Kind of lurk and stalk the site and say, hey, you know what? This popped up. Should we cancel Saratoga and move it over? Yeah, Saratoga is always just a great, great choice.
I remember vividly sitting at Copper Creek in a cabin, texting Derek furiously one time when we did our one night stay in a cabin, and it was when I was trying to figure out how I could get what I referred to as cabin points at the time, because cabins are still readily available within that 7-month booking window, and so I was like, well, I'll just buy the cheapest points I can because I need to stay in this cabin more. And I was like, okay, Derek, what if I sell this contract? How many more points can I get if I sell this and do this? And I was like, I was convinced. I never did it, but
those cabins are great.
There's still time.
Yeah, there's still cabin points in the future, but no, so many people just overlook this resort. And you mentioned in there is always last minute availability here. You know, availability is the name of the game when it comes to Disney Vacation Club, and there are a lot of resorts where, you know, once you get even before you get to the 7-month booking window, a lot of the main rooms are gone. And once you get inside, you know, 2-3 months, I had someone contact me today at rental store, and they had points that they were hoping to rent. And I was like, when do your points expire? It's the key word when it comes to renting points. And they said, I have a December use here. And I said, your points expire at the end of November? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, this is going to be fun, because it becomes more challenging, because the obstacle is not finding someone to rent your points. There are plenty of guests that want to go to Walt Disney World. The obstacle is always, is there DVC availability? Because that is something that no one controls but DVC. There are only so many rooms, and once they are all booked, they're done. And so that is kind of the limiting factor. But this close, you can still get into Saratoga Springs. So a lot of people end up, you know, renting points at Saratoga because that's the only option. A lot of last minute guests that are planning to go to Disney World, their last minute plans are at Saratoga because it's where they can still get in. It's where they can at least still go on their vacation, which is better than not going on vacation, unless you're going on vacation and going to classes all day, which that's debatable unless it's a lasagna class. So, but
bellissimo.
we're gonna now that we have the DVC Chef series, we're gonna have to do a DVC Chef cooking class with Panda and Lasagna. So we'll get Ken Martin to come up. He is the DVC Chef, and man, some of the stuff that if you are not watching those videos,
I saw one. They're good.
Some of the food he is creating, he sends me a message, once every week or once every other week. He's like, "What do you think I should cook?" And I just throw out random things, and he just reinvents this item from scratch. Like one of the upcoming one is the cheeseburger egg rolls from Magic Kingdom. So if there is anything that any of you guys or any of you in listening want from the DVC Chef in the near future, Ken can cook it up. So put it in the comments.
Does he need taste testers?
I'm sure, yeah. If you can hop on a plane to Boston,
Jeff, we'll get in touch with him.
Area.
Yeah.
I feel super bad because it's like 8:15 at night and I'm in a dark room and I'm going to eat a lean pocket as soon as we're done.
Ken, love the guy to death. He's been a good dear friend of the DVC fan community for a long time. We've met up with him several different times, but he sent me a text the other day, and he was going to a dinner party with some friends, and what they had done is the one guy, I think, has a boat, and so they set traps. They caught lobster. An hour later, Ken was cooking these lobsters, sent me a video of him cooking the lobster. They had lobster rolls. They had they just had so much good food, and it's like that thought of like not only being that good of a cook, but I know I've gone on a wild tangent here of food, but you can tell food excites me, except for that lean pocket that Derek's going to eat later.
Yeah, can you tell Ken to go start working at the turf club? Because that would be really
well, that's a nice segue.
Nice
Derek.
segue.
Nice segue.
See what you did there. Got us back on track. Dining and amenities over at Saratoga Springs are the last two items that we had on our list to talk about. In terms of amenities, we've got what was the spa, the Senses Spa, still closed. No idea when that will reopen. Someone in the group recently did ask, though, the fitness center associated with the spa is still open at this time, but the actual spa itself is not open. There are all kinds of cool amenities. They have an amazing sort of activity center. We just did our Surrey bike tour and rode a Surrey bike around the resort. So that's kind of fun stuff to do at Saratoga Springs as well. And then, of course, the Lake Buena Vista golf course is kind of weaving its way through the resort, which is a very popular golf course as well, that a lot of people head to for a Disney vacation. So if you're looking for a good resort for like a golf trip, a weekend golf trip or something, Saratoga is the perfect place for it because you've got the Lake Buena Vista golf course sort of weaving through it. Jeff, you didn't do Lake Buena Vista recently. You did another golf course, but it looked like you had a great time based off the photos and stuff.
Yeah, it was really fun. We played Disney's Palm, which is kind of under construction right now, but it's the Palm and Magnolia you actually access it through Shades of Green across the street from Polynesian. You park at Shades of Green to access it, but I can't recommend Disney golf enough. And if you're a DVC man and are flexible in your schedule, the discounts after like 5 o'clock are pretty impressive. Like we're talking 18 holes for about $40, which is crazy. Think about it being a PGA course at one time. So,
and how many balls did you lose?
At least one hole, if not more. I'm not good. I'm a way better Surrey bike driver than I am a golfer.
You and I then have to go. We'll go do Lake Buena Vista golf course.
Yeah, I like how Paul asked you that. Like he hasn't cracked out his golf clubs in 10 years.
I'm legit asking it just to see whether or not I would feel comfortable going golfing with you because I am like I do not want other people around me. Like go through, pass me please, because if I feel rushed, I get nervous, and then I'm 10 times worse than I already am. And I'm already a terrible golfer, so
I'm like that at putt-putt golf. If you're breathing down my neck at putt-putt golf, I have to take a Xanax.
Speaking of amenities at Saratoga Springs, there is also the amazing Turf Club Bar and Grill that is located there, as along with the Artist Pallet, as Panda sticks his nose up at my Turf Club comment. But Panda, your thoughts on the Turf Club?
I've been there twice, and it's always been okay. But it looks like a beautiful restaurant, and it should be more than okay. So I was happy when I went to the Flying Fish and thought that was fantastic. I didn't even get fish. I had a filet mignon there, but I thought it was fantastic. And I heard that the head chef there just recently, like within the last month, is moving to the Turf Club to revamp it. So there's still hope. I don't know. Did you guys like it? I thought you knew that the Turf Club, you were like, eh.
I think we knew going in. I won't speak for Jeff. I'll let him comment. But I think we kind of knew going in that it was eh. And my main thing that I will end with, I'll go to Jeff, is I thought the service was tremendous. We had amazing service, and the cast members there were so wonderful. Even the chef came, presented some food to us, and complimentary desserts they brought to our table. So I can't knock them for trying, but there's just something going wrong in the kitchen.
It's always been that way.
I just think the menu's not exciting.
Yeah.
And so maybe a revamp of the menu.
Jeff, what were your thoughts?
It could be exciting with a revamp, but I keep going back to it suffers from proximity to Disney Springs. Like, it's fine. Like, I didn't hate my meal. It was okay. But across the bay, there's like 12 other restaurants I would rather eat at, That it suffers from location. And Paul said this before. It kind of feels like they don't really have to put a lot of effort in because it's just there.
That sounds like a girl that she's like, I'm pretty when I'm not around my sisters.
Yeah, but
like proximity should never be the reason why the kitchen is not doing, because there's better restaurants next door.
No, you're right. You're right.
But I agree. Boathouse I would go to first.
Yeah, definitely. We've talked about Artist Pallet. We've talked about Turf Club, but often overlooked is the Paddock Grill at the Paddock Pool. That actually is good food and kind of a hidden gem in and of itself. So
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I've totally forgotten about that, and I haven't made my way over there. Artist Palette, they've been injecting some new foods into that. I think even pre the chef from Flying Fish moving over, they keep trying to reinvent or do something over there to kind of inject some life into that quick service as well. But it historically has kind of had a bad rap. We ate there once, I think.
Yeah, I really want to go and try the new menu though. A lot of it does look kind of good, so we'll see.
The same could be said for the Turf Club. It looked good on the surface. It looks good.
It was pretty.
It wasn't pink chicken, Panda. I mean, it got that going for us. So, but yeah, if you missed our Turf Club review, we did recently review that over on the DVC Fan YouTube channel. So that's up over there for dining review. Derek, any last thoughts on dining or any of the amenities over at Saratoga?
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% about the Turf Club because, again, it's not like let's go to Turf Club because it's so much less expensive than the other restaurant. It's just as expensive as eating in any other Disney restaurant. And just like Jeff said, you can't, you're putting lipstick on a pig. I mean, it's a beautiful environment per se, but it feels like it should be way more. It feels like for a golf resort, like it should have that feeling like, oh man, let's go hang out and have a few beers and let's have some good food. And again, not expensive food, but it just doesn't hit that on either level. And I feel like for me, I spent a lot of time at Artist Palette because again, that's the DVC headquarters. So when we were direct guides, we'd almost always eat there. So you'd always go over there for lunch. It always feels too hectic for me. Like there's something about ordering at Artist Palette that it just seems too manic. It's like you're placing over here.
It's the layout. It's the layout. Yeah, the layout is
right over here. You're going to walk through a gift shop to go get your pizza. It's way too hectic for me. But so, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It does kind of have that wacky gift shop into a kitchen layout, which that's. I mean, based off of how it's built next to Turf Club, it's sharing the kitchen with the Turf Club. So that the same place that the pizzas and stuff are coming out of is the same kitchen probably that the rest of the food there is coming out of. So it was built smart and logistically most likely. But
it's almost like now that you guys have mentioned this, it feels like the Turf Club would do better if they weren't trying to be this like luxurious steakhouse. Like, just make it a pub on the golf course with small bites and beer on tap, and simplify it would probably do it some justice.
Yeah.
Right. And to that point, Jeff, a lot of people say that the burger, and I think they just have it at the Turf Club bar. There's a burger there apparently that a lot of people said it's like the best burger they've had on property.
Oh, wow.
And some people said that you can get it in the Turf Club, but it's not on the menu. And if I had known, I would have ordered it, but it's not there, like visibly on the menu. But you're right. Like, that's the kind of stuff that would be good there. You know, a good burger and
nice.
Yeah, if you can't have a great steakhouse, make a good burger. People will go for that.
Exactly. Yeah, and I feel like that's why a lot of people are actually making reservations there, is because they either didn't get any other reservations, or they just want something quick where they can sit down with the family at the end of a long day and have a nice meal. They're not looking for a high-end steakhouse. They're looking for just some quick food. They probably got the kids with them, so they're looking for some chicken fingers. They're looking for that kind of food. So...
and because the pretty sister was already taken on a date, so they're left with it.
And I'll just add one more thing really quick. And you know, we're talking about Saratoga Springs, and I'm also looking at you, old Key West. I don't understand why Disney just doesn't start adopting Universal's approach to drinks with their refillable mugs, that you can use them in the parks and everywhere else, but they need a drink station at every building, because those refillable mugs that they try and sell you in the gift shop at $20-25 a piece. Yep. If you're at Saratoga, you're not using it. You're not going to make that hike just to fill up your Coke.
No.
Nope. Yeah. So I don't understand why they don't do that still. And just
take an Uber
for like 5 ounces.
Take an Uber for the front to the front building for your.
You're gonna hop on your horse.
Or hop on your horse. Yeah. when the annual dues go up over at the resort as well. But now I'm intrigued to go try this burger, and I think it's more of a reason why, Jeff, you and I should go. Maybe all of us should go.
Let's all go golf.
You're talking about a burger. I'm right here. I got to go with you.
You're busy making Italian food.
Will you golf with us?
Stop.
No, I'll watch. I'll film you.
Can you at least...
I can do putt golf.
Can you at least putt on the greens, and I'll stand right behind you so you get real nervous?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Breathe out his neck.
This is a date has been made, and you can expect this amazing content.
But that burger, I want to go find out about this burger now.
Oh, yeah. We're going for the burger.
Okay.
Golf is just the thing that we have to do before we get the burger. So
I'll drive the golf cart.
That's a scary proposition.
There we go.
No.
We can have our own caddies. You know.
I'll do caddy.
You around, Panda can drive me around.
Derek, do you golf?
No, I will meet you in the bar and keep your beers cold for you.
All right, another caddy there as well. So looks like we have a nice threesome here in terms of a golf outing. But I think that's going to cover it in terms
Thanks
of...
for the clarification.
I was going to let it go.
I was going to say that, but...
that was
Who said it first, Derek?
You just lobbed it up. Like, come on.
As you can tell, we're all just a little bit slap happy after our third episode of the DVC show that we've filmed for this evening. But Saratoga is a place you shouldn't sleep on. You need to go check out this resort. It shouldn't be the last resort that you consider. Definitely try to make your way there if you've not done so, or if you're looking for an amazing resort to call home in terms of a Disney Vacation Club property, you should do that. But on that note, I think that will do it for this week's episode of the DVC show. We hope you enjoyed it. Jeff's dog says hello and hopes you enjoyed it as well.
Trying to keep him out of the shot, but now we're just
It's okay. Remember, where the show started, it's now ending. We're coming full circle. So we'll end the show on cuteness. What's the dog's name?
Dash.
Look at
Dash.
Dash named after The Incredibles?
Yep.
Of course, yeah. Well, on behalf of Dash, Jeff, Panda, Derek, Amy, myself, we hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the DVC show, and we will see you next Monday.
Bye, everybody.